Hello again, Lynn Dalmastro Thompson with Heartfire Healing. And today's video is going to be for you if you're not somebody who's dealing with chronic illness. I want to talk to kind of some of the people out there who you aren't really sick, but you maybe have some symptoms that you kind of write off as normal. So this video is for you if maybe after you eat, you always kind of feel bloated and gassy. Maybe your stomach feels kind of mildly uncomfortable a lot of the time. Or maybe, you're chronically tired all the time. Like you get up in the morning and you really wish you had another couple hours that you could sleep. No matter how many hours you slept that night, you just never really feel rested. You feel like you wish you could take a nap in the middle of the afternoon. You could put a pillow down on your desk literally and fall asleep if you had the chance. Or maybe, you're noticing some hormonal symptoms, some hot flashes, some mood swings, things like that. So we're not talking about the big scary symptoms here. We're talking about things that, on a day-to-day basis you notice, but you probably are not giving a whole lot of attention to. You're writing them off as normal. And today I really want to talk to you about why that's really a dangerous thing to start doing and what it could really be masking if you just kind of keep writing those things off and thinking this is normal. And it's kind of become part of our culture to think certain things are normal. We are conditioned to write off certain symptoms as normal. We hear a lot of people talk about how tired they are and we think, I'm just stressed, I'm overworked. This is just normal. I have kids or I have a really busy life and I'm just tired because I have all of these things going on in my life. But the truth is, all of these symptoms are kind of mile markers on the route to something bigger. And I really want to talk about these sorts of things because I'm very passionate about helping people not get to that big, scary diagnosis, to not get to that big health crisis where you have no choice but to listen. First of all, because who wants to go through that? It's not fun to get very, very sick. I don't want any of you who aren't currently dealing with something like that to ever have to experience what it's like to get really sick and then have to figure things out. And second, because you could be living so much of a better quality of life without these symptoms that you've just been kind of ignoring, writing off, saying they're normal, maybe saying you don't have time to deal with them. So let's talk really about these things aren't normal symptoms. These are things that we are conditioned to write off as normal, but they're not. So, the first issue is you're thinking these issues are no big deal. You're just kind of following the line. We have so many medications out there over the counter for, if you have a little bit of gassiness or a little bit of bloating, or, you're just saying, I'm just tired, hey, I had a busy week, but busy week after busy week, right? You're constantly tired. You never feel rested. Is that really normal? It's not. We are designed to feel so much better than many of us currently feel, and yet we're writing off how we feel as normal, or we're making all of the excuses for why we're feeling this way. So, some of you may have no idea just how good your body is designed to feel. Just, think of how you were in your childhood and in your teenage years. Like, what if your body could feel that great again? What if you had all the energy you needed to get through your day and you didn't constantly feel uncomfortable after you eat or all the time in your stomach, and you felt like you were in a balanced, regulated state, even when you have your cycle, if you're a woman, like all of these things, what if you just felt so much better? And another excuse that we often make, I think, when we have some of these more minor symptoms is, I don't have time to deal with this right now. I'm busy. I don't have time to investigate this, explore this, go start working with someone to look into this. It's like, it's no big deal, right? I'm busy. I don't have time. And what we're saying when we don't have time really is it's just not, it's a priority for us. But if you keep plugging away this way with these smaller symptoms, they're going to get bigger and bigger. So some of the common things that people experience before they get to something that's a more chronic illness can be fatigue, leading into adrenal burnout, adrenal fatigue. So if you're constantly tired all of the time, there is something going on. That's not normal. And that's something that we need to shift our mindset around and help ourselves really realize that that's not normal and we need to look into it. Same thing, you know, with a lot of digestive issues and stomach imbalances. So, you know, there's, some of you may have heard of something called leaky gut, and that just means there's like a permeability of the walls of your digestive system, and stuff can kind of get out that shouldn't, and things start getting in that shouldn't go into the digestive system. Those are kind of some of the foundational things that can contribute to something bigger developing later. And so when you write it off, or when you say, I don't have time to deal with this now, I'll just live with it, and you're not making it a priority, you're letting that fester, and it can get bigger and bigger and bigger to the point that you're going to have to listen. So you may have heard me, you know, if you've been following me for a while, say, you know, when the body keeps kind of whispering at us and we don't listen, or we're getting the little taps on the shoulder and we don't listen, then it gets louder and louder, and finally it starts screaming, or sometimes I call it the cosmic 2x4. And I really, in this message here, in this sharing of my wisdom, I want to save you from that cosmic 2x4, from that big scream of your body, because all of these things, all of these symptoms that you are feeling are messages and clues in the process. They're your body starting to say something is out of balance with me. And when you say it's normal, or I'm too busy, then, you know, it ratchets itself up another notch and another notch and another notch. And so it gets louder and bigger. And ultimately, when it gets louder and bigger, it gets harder to solve these issues. So when, you know, think about, I'm going to use the analogy of a weed in your garden. How much easier is that weed to pull out of your garden when it's very small and the roots don't go very deep, right? We can usually just walk in, yank it out, and it's no struggle. And if the roots get really deep and they start going far into the earth and they start tangling with other things, how much harder is it? I mean, I was dealing with this a few weeks ago, literally, in the sense of trying to weed, and some of these weeds had like worked their way under the concrete, and it was really hard to get them out. That's the same thing that starts to happen with our health when we ignore things. The roots get deeper and they start kind of intertwining with other things that make it hard to get rid of. So the sooner you address a problem, the sooner you address an imbalance in your body, and stop just ignoring these symptoms, writing them off, you know, going with this perspective of, you know, they're normal. And sometimes you may even see a doctor, and a doctor may say these things are kind of normal. It breaks my heart how many women are told with hormonal symptoms, you know, in their like 30s, oh, you're just going through perimenopause. Well, that's pretty darn early to be experiencing those sorts of symptoms and have it just written off as, quote, normal. Well, maybe that is becoming, to a sense, the normal, because we're just ignoring these things and writing them off as normal, but it's really not truly the normal. So we need to really start to shift our perspective around what's normal and what's not normal. And all of these symptoms really that I'm describing here are not things that you should just write off as normal. They're warning signs that something bigger is coming if you don't keep looking into it and you don't address it. And so this process, you might need to educate yourself by learning more about what truly is normal from like a functional perspective. Maybe checking with a naturopath instead of a Western doctor of like, what is this really normal? What pops to mind is an example of my own story of, so I don't have a thyroid anymore, so I have to be on thyroid replacement because the body can't generate thyroid hormone without thyroid. And I was seeing an endocrinologist who kept saying to me, you know, your dose of the thyroid hormone is too high, based on the way she was looking at it from her perspective. So she kept saying it was too high, and I was like, well, when you decreased my dose like 3 or 4 weeks ago, I started to feel more and more exhausted. I got to the point I felt like I could take a nap in the middle of the afternoon every day, and that's not normal for me. And when I said, I'm feeling this way and I'm exhausted, this happened when we changed my dose, she started to say, well, no, that couldn't be it. It still shows up as too high. Well, from then when I worked with a naturopath, she was looking at the ratio of the active thyroid hormone in my blood versus the inactive, the one that the body has to convert. So there's T3 and T4. And she said, no, your body's just not converting this very well, and we don't want to decrease your dose. So, things that get written off as normal, and you may even feel that way sometimes with the doctor, you're like, well, it doesn't really feel quite normal, but they're saying it's normal, so I guess it's normal. I mean, they have an MD, right? They should know what's normal. There's a completely different perspective out there from more of a functional medicine approach of, what levels are normal of certain things, what symptoms are normal, and things that, your GP may just say, oh yeah, that's typical, that's normal. Really, from a different perspective, a broader perspective, they are seen as, no, this is a sign of imbalance. We need to look at things like your cortisol level and how that's affecting your fatigue. Are you building up towards adrenal fatigue? That's not something that most Western doctors start to look at, but it's such a common thing. I mean, there's so many women out there who are dealing with adrenal fatigue and adrenal burnout, and you don't want to get to that place. So really, the heart of today's message is about, educating yourself on what is and isn't normal, maybe getting a different perspective, starting to look at different kinds of practitioners. Like, don't just take the standard line. Like, if you have a symptom and you keep feeling it and it doesn't go away, that it's normal, because oftentimes we're just, again, conditioned to think things are normal that really shouldn't be normal. We have no idea. Excuse me for a second. We have no idea how good our bodies are designed to feel, for the most part. And so we have to keep coming back to realizing that we're becoming conditioned to think that, certain symptoms are normal. We're writing them off. If you're tired all the time, if you want to hit the snooze button every day and take a nap in the afternoon, not normal. If you always just feel uncomfortable after you eat, you feel like there's a basketball in your stomach, there's like pressure, that's not normal either. If you're having hot flashes and you're in your 30s, it's not normal. All of these things, not normal. Also, if you're having trouble with metabolism and losing weight, it's not necessarily that you don't have willpower or you don't know how to follow a diet. There's underlying imbalances in our body that we're being given clues about, but we're ignoring them. We're saying they're normal. We're saying we don't have time to address them. Or we just think the problem will go away. That's kind of the final point I want to make here, is sometimes we just think, oh, it's no big deal, it'll just go away on its own. And honestly, most of these kinds of symptoms aren't going to just go away on their own without some sort of corrective help, like something to address what is going on, what the underlying imbalance is. And just kind of wishfully thinking, it'll go away in a couple weeks, I'll feel better. How long have you actually been dealing with these symptoms? Ask yourself that. Like, if they haven't gone away, and you've been feeling them for months or years, that's definitely, again, not normal. And I want you to be able to live the healthiest and happiest life that you are able to live. I don't want you to settle for symptoms, or more on the point, I don't want you to get to that place where your body has to scream at you, where you have to get really sick for you to realize there's a problem. So take heed of the message, I hope, and realize that, by addressing the issue now, it's going to be much easier. It's going to be much less expensive because you are dealing with it when it's an easy solve rather than when it's like this big, huge problem. And how much more time are you going to have in your life when you feel better? How much better quality of life are you going to have? Like, how many years can you have back of feeling really good versus just kind of settling for this as, oh, they're no big deal. These kinds of like simple symptoms, they're minor inconveniences, or doesn't everybody have these? So take a hard look at that for yourself. Like, are these things you're just willing to settle for the rest of your life? Maybe even ask yourself that question. Like, if I felt this way that I feel right now every day for the rest of my life, Would I be willing to live with that? Or would I like to feel a lot better than I feel right now? And if you would like to feel a lot better than you would feel right now, then it's time to do something, to look into what's going on. What are these symptoms telling you, and what is the root of this? And again, solve it before the roots get really deep and complicated. And like in that analogy I used earlier, with the weeds, it's much easier to pull the little weeds. So pull it, address it while the roots are small and it's a little weed, rather than when it gets to the big, scary chronic illness stage. And I don't want that for anyone that isn't currently there. And I don't want that for anybody who is currently there. So I hope this message today was helpful for those of you who are kind of questioning what is normal. What symptoms am I writing off as just like, it's no big deal? Or am I buying into a line from a doctor saying, oh, this is kind of common for women your age or a person your age, or people just have bloating. It's not really the truth. So get to the truth. All right, I'm going to sign off for now. Thank you for taking the time to watch either live or the replay. And I hope that you have a great rest of your day. Bye for now.